This is Lisa Tucker, host of The Book Cover, which showcases local literary personalities. So listen to The Book Cover on the borderline. And remember, don't judge a book by its cover. Hi, this is Lisa Tucker. You're listening to The Book Cover on the borderline. Today I have with me author Angela Davey. Hi, Angela.
Hi, Lisa.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Now, this is exciting for me because Angela and I are friends. So
Yes.
I'm very excited to have you on the show and get to know everything about your new book. So because we're not regulated by CRTC, we can say the title of the book. So go ahead.
All right. Title of the book is You PTSD.
Right. And on the cover, the U in the F-U-C-K is sort of hashtagged out, I guess.
Yeah.
But this is an interesting book because you are, by day, you are a bean counter.
I am.
You are an accountant.
I'm a numbers girl.
Right?
Yes.
And then also, you've got a couple of different hats that you wear. You're also a yoga instructor.
Yeah.
And what else do you do?
I do lots.
But you do lots with health. You're very
Lots of health,
Yes.
health and wellness. I'm a fitness instructor, personal trainer, yoga teacher. I specialize in trauma-sensitive yoga and women's health.
Okay. I love both of those.
Yes, both very much needed. Yeah.
I will tell you that the only yoga pose I do on a regular basis is the corpse pose.
It's the best one. Everybody should be doing it.
My husband, anytime he sees the corpse pose, he goes, "Hey, that's your favorite pose." Anyway, so with all of this sort of culminated into this book that just came out last month.
Came out technically in September, but I got copies physically last month.
Okay.
Yes.
And now it's a very interesting story as to what led you to write the book. So can you, and it involves your husband.
It does.
So can you tell that story?
Sure. I have, as you said, lots of different certifications in the health field. I've been working in the health field for 30 years now. I had lots of tools to deal with stress and wellness, including the trauma-sensitive yoga path. My husband was diagnosed with PTSD in early 2019. I tell the story in the book that he came to me in 2018. We realized at that time that there's not a lot of resources out there. He managed to get in with a therapist quickly, which is good. But then you're kind of left to figure it out on your own. So I knew I had all these tools. I said, okay, let's try things to see if they work to help you feel better. And so he was very generous in allowing me to let him be my guinea pig.
Did he roll his eyes and say, I don't know how this could help? Because his trauma, now, can we talk about what he does or what he did?
Yep.
Okay, so he was a police officer.
Yep.
And knowing a few police officers, I know that PTSD is very common for them because even in our little city in Northern Ontario, they see things that like regular people shouldn't see.
Exactly.
Regular-minded people shouldn't see.
Yep.
So that doesn't shock me that there wasn't a lot of care here, but it does in a way.
Yeah.
Did it shock you?
It did. I really thought there'd be more out there.
Especially for police officers or military or anybody
First responders,
in service.
anybody.
Yes.
Yeah. So he didn't roll his eyes.
Okay.
There were a few topics that I brought forward that made him roll his eyes.
Okay.
Yes. So no, he was very willing. He tried a lot of the stuff in the book that I talk about. I have also had my own struggles with mental health. I have workplace anxiety, went through a bout of depression. So I had the tools, I used them. Some helped, some didn't help. So I wrote the book in a style to present 30 different things you can try. Some may resonate with you, some may not. If you find one tidbit out of this book, I have done my job.
Right. Yes. So did you do additional research for the book, or did you just culminate all the things that you had learned as, as a health and wellness aficionado?
I thought I had all the knowledge in my head.
Okay.
Once I started writing the book, especially for my target market, I wanted to explain it basically to someone who'd be skeptical to try these things.
Okay.
So I always had someone kind of in mind, how am I going to explain it to this person? So then it led me to having to do a little bit of research to explain the science behind why it could work. If there was no science yet, some of them are still, I'll call it quote unquote, out there. But there's experiential evidence. So I've either seen it in my training sessions, people I know in my training sessions. A lot of my trauma-sensitive yoga training was with people who work with veterans, war veterans, spouses of veterans. They've used these things and it's worked for them. So I wanted to get that as a base to show why it's proven to work for some people, and then expand on that, my experience, our experience, and then how to do it or where to find more resources. So each of the 30 things you can try in this book are basically just scratching the surface. I leave it up to the reader to decide what they want to dive a little deeper into.
Got it. So this is almost like a sampler plate.
Yes.
Okay, of tools to try if you've got PTSD.
And it's not necessarily just for PTSD.
That's my next question was going to be,
Anybody struggling with anything mental health can use these. They're coping strategies is what they are. I've had lots of people buy the book from me who are giving it to people preemptively to prevent mental health issues, to give people coping skills, to build resilience before they go into jobs that could impact them.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have read different things. Now there's different types of exercises, stretches, yoga. I'm not sure what you want to call it, especially with the hips, because from what I've understood, we keep emotion locked in our hips.
We hold our emotions in predominantly our hips.
Yeah.
So trauma-sensitive yoga is based on the fact that we hold things inside our body.
Yeah.
They say we have issues in our tissues. Yes. Talk therapy is great for some people.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work for everybody or doesn't help completely with everybody. So you have to take that stored trauma and get it out of the body somehow. And movement is what does it. So trauma-sensitive yoga works the body, moves the body in ways to help release that trauma. If you think about somebody who's protecting themselves, even when we're sick, we curl in, right? We tuck our arms in, we lift our legs up, we curl in. And that's what people do when they're suffering.
Shoulders up.
Yep. Chest tucked in, back rounded, and knees curled in, draw the hips in. So what we want to try to do is release that and let it out of the body so we can let go of what we're holding on to emotionally. There are several people that I've talked to who have been to just a regular yoga class and say, I don't know why, but I cried. And it's the emotional release just in moving the body in those ways. I could teach a trauma-sensitive class and not tell you it was trauma-sensitive. You'd never know.
So it's not the way it's taught. Not everybody is sitting around with tissues and crying the whole time. So it's just like a regular yoga class.
It's a regular yoga class. There's things we do to reduce triggers, basically. So you make sure that the students can see the door.
Okay.
So it's safe.
Yes.
If there's doors in the room, closets, doors to other places, you tell them or show them what's behind that door so they know.
Yeah.
Music, typically there's no lyrics. It's basically instrumental, so there's no triggering words or anything in the music. And then the language the instructor uses is inclusive and non-triggering. And then the movement to release the trauma is kind of a slow, fluid movement, again, to release what's in the hips and the shoulders and the chest. So it's different, but again, if I didn't tell you, if you didn't know any different, you wouldn't know.
So do you hold classes that are just for trauma?
Not right now.
Yeah.
My plan is to start doing that. I've had a few people ask me that question. I do have regular yoga classes that I will tell people I use trauma-sensitive techniques, so it's a safe space to come to, but it's not necessarily a trauma-sensitive class to release trauma. It's just a yoga class.
See, I can see, of course my mind is going now, and I can see once you get this up and started, and your passion is also women's health. I can see Breton House or Women in Crisis or, what great things that you can, of course your services need to be paid for, but these are tools that they can use and it's free once they've learned them.
Right. Yes.
And they can do in their own time. So it doesn't take up a lot of time.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. I love that.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So you have 30. Now, how did you come up with those 30, I guess, activities or exercises or
I call
tools?
them healing modalities in the book.
Okay.
But essentially they're coping skills for the average person. I basically did a brainstorming session and used cue cards and wrote one idea on each cue card. I think I had 50 to start with, and I'm like, that's too much. Let's pare it down.
Yeah, how did you pare it?
I decided to try the ones, again, based on my target market, that I thought that they would be more open to trying. And the ones that we had tried, the ones that are a little more common that people maybe have heard of or have heard at least the concept.
Yeah.
Some of them I amalgamated into one chapter. So I have one chapter just on energy healing. I had that split out with energy healing and Reiki. They're kind of both on the same umbrella, so I just mixed them together. So I pared it down to 30 healing modalities, tried to keep them to less than 10 pages each.
Yeah, I noticed, like, there's a lot of chapters, so it's an easy read. Like, listen, for a girl that reads a lot, when there are short chapters, it's like, I don't know if it's a more relaxed read. I'm not sure how to describe it, but it's an easier read.
It's an easier, I talk in the book about how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time. Each chapter is kind of one bite.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That's
so
cool.
People can pick up the book, and if they want to read the introduction and kind of how I set the book up, how you can use the book, I explain all that. But they can just flip through it, and if a chapter appeals to them, they can just read that chapter.
Yeah. So it doesn't have to be a page 1 to page 200.
You can hop all over. My husband calls it choose your own medicine.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can kind of flip through it and see what kind of appeals to you, and then, I'm going to read this chapter. It could be chapter 29. Who knows?
Right.
Yeah.
Now, when reading kind of the introduction to your book, you didn't just go to a course here in the Sioux and do this and do that. Like, you went to India.
I went to India, yeah.
So tell me about that.
India was fantastic. So to be a yoga instructor, you have to have 200 hours of training. So that was part of my initial 200-hour training. Not everybody goes to India, but I
would be in for that
route.
Yeah,
Yes.
I would be into going to India to learn.
Yeah. It was organized, so all my training's through a company called Yoga Fit. They're international. It was a group of about 30 of us that went. I was the only one from Sault Ste. Marie. There was two other Canadians that I met up with there. Happened to know them, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
Yep. So we were there for just over 2 weeks. We went to, it was a retreat center basically in Rishikesh, which is considered the birthplace of India. And we basically just explored different ways to do yoga. We did kriyas, which are techniques that use the breath to help release things from the body. We learned about the deities and how they relate to life, how each deity kind of is like, one helps to remove obstacles and one helps us with our personal power, things like that. And then we toured around. So we got to see, how people lived. Of course, we did some trips too. We did a trip to the ashram where the Beatles were back in the 70s.
That's cool.
Which was very cool.
Yeah.
We went to the Taj Mahal. That was a bit of a road trip, but we got to go there. And so, it was really cool to go to the place where yoga comes from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's interesting in the way you're talking, maybe people realize this, maybe they don't, but yoga is just not an exercise.
No.
Yoga is a spirituality. It's a way of life. It's almost a religion.
No, it's not actually.
Okay.
And that's where people get mixed up.
Okay.
Yoga is a philosophy.
Okay.
You can it has a spiritual component, but it's not religious.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and you're right. The postures are one small part of actually what encompasses yoga. I actually recently, at my book release, I put up a picture and it shows an iceberg. And just the very tip at the top is exposed in the water. And it says, these are the postures, basically the asanas, we call them in Sanskrit. The rest of the iceberg, which is huge under the water, is the rest of yoga. So it's a philosophy on how to live a good life, how to live a life so that your body is treated well, you can have optimal health physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And you can pick as many of the pieces as you want to try.
Yeah. It's customizable.
It is, absolutely. Yeah.
It's almost, you take care of the mind, the body will follow.
Yep.
Yeah, I love that.
And pick the pieces that work for you and your lifestyle. And
And you don't have to have anything fancy.
No.
For yoga.
No.
You have, maybe if you don't have a rug, you need a mat.
You just have to be able to breathe.
I can breathe.
Sitting and breathing is doing yoga.
Listen, I can breathe. And I haven't tried yoga. As you may or may not know, I've got lupus. So I'm thinking maybe I should try yoga, but my joints don't work. So I don't know.
But there's a yoga for everybody.
Yeah. Maybe I'm holding trauma in my right
Maybe
hip
you are.
from childhood. You did touch on Reiki a little bit.
Yep.
And I've had my own personal experiences with Reiki. So I was a massage therapist.
Right.
And I did my first degree in Reiki. And I went in thinking it was complete woo-woo.
Me too.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's hard to explain to somebody without making it sound flaky.
Yep.
But the weekend that I was got my first degree, I feel like that was a turning point for me in my adulthood. I carried a lot of childhood trauma with me. I was very negative. I was very angry. There was a lot of things I carried, and I credit that weekend that I was learning yoga. I was in London, Ontario, as sort of a turning point for me to be more positive, to release the anger, to release all that stuff. And unless you've experienced it, you don't get it.
Absolutely.
You don't get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, have you come across people that have seen the book and thought, oh, woo-woo?
Not yet.
Okay.
I mean, the whole reason I wrote it is to get rid of the woo-woo. So I explain these things to take the woo-woo out of them.
Yeah, because you did say you explained some with science.
Yes.
I love it.
Yeah. And I talk in the book, kind of the setup part of the book is I wrote it to take the woo-woo out of these things that people would maybe scoff at, maybe roll their eyes at. Right? So that's why I wanted the science or the experiential evidence to back it up so that people could say, okay, maybe there's something to this.
Right.
So when I talk about Reiki, I talk about energy and how we've proven that there's energy. We're all made of energy. The earth is made of energy. We have a connection to the earth, the science behind all that, and then why Reiki can work. And as I'm a Reiki master, I have my 3rd degree. I've done several treatments. Not once have I had somebody say that it wasn't helpful to them.
Yes.
Every single person has said it helped them either work through something, it got rid of a pain that they had. One lady said she had a bruise and it was gone shortly after that treatment. And she said that normally would have been there for a long time. Wow. So I've had very positive feedback from Reiki alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Reiki and energy work is one of the 30 components or modules.
Yeah.
Now, did your husband, was he working the book with you, or when you had the finished product, did you give it to him to read?
Yes. So we would try things. I would pick away. It took me 3 years to write the book. So I would kind of pick away at it, write a little bit of a chapter.
Because you have a full-time job.
I have a full-time
your
job.
part-time obsession.
And I teach 8 to 10 classes a week.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I had to fit it in when I could. I gave it to him. He was my first editor, basically. So he went through the whole thing and said, okay, I don't like the way you're explaining this. Even just something as simple as a tabletop position, get into tabletop position in yoga. What is that? I don't know.
Coming from somebody that starting at zero.
Yeah. So there's a few things he helped me with that, saying, you're assuming the reader knows what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. So he helped me fix those things.
I wouldn't know what tabletop is.
Yeah. And that's
I'm thinking I'd get on top of a table.
Yeah. And it could be your own version of tabletop.
Okay.
Yeah. I've seen you on tables before.
Yes. That's another show.
But basically you're on all fours on the floor. So you're on your hands and knees on the floor.
Forming a table.
Yeah. Forming a table.
Got it.
Yeah. So he really helped me with that from the perspective of my target audience, to make it more appealing to them, to explain things better to them. He got me to include some things to give it a little more street cred, I guess, if you will. In the Reiki chapter, actually, he said, do you remember the Karate Kid when Mr. Miyagi did that thing and made his knee better? And I'm like,
clap. And
yeah.
Yes.
I went back and watched the clip from the movie. I'm like, he was doing Reiki.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I use that in the book to give it a little street cred.
Yeah.
So he helped me with stuff like
Mr.
that.
Mr. Miyagi gives street cred to anything that you put his name on. I agree. I 100% agree.
If it worked for the Karate Kid, it can work for anybody.
Listen, Ralph Macchio, who didn't have a crush on him? Anyway, back to the book. Okay, interesting. So he had some helpful input.
He did.
As the regular guy.
Yep. Yeah, as my target audience.
Yeah. A regular guy.
Yeah. So I went through it, and then I went through several other edits after that, more for content, spelling, that kind of stuff. When I submitted it to the publisher, they said it was too long for a self-help book. So I actually had to cut 2,000 words out of it before I went to publish. Yeah.
So I didn't realize that a self-help book had to be a certain.
Yeah, they said typically no more than 300 pages for a self-help book. So it ended up being 288.
So you cut it almost right to the.
Yeah.
Right to the wire.
Yeah.
What did you cut out? Like, how did you cut out any modules, or did you?
No, I didn't cut out any modules. I shortened things up. I tightened things up.
Yeah.
I had some chapters I had more than one example of something, so I took some of the examples out.
Oh, wow. That would be super difficult.
It was really hard.
Yeah.
And it broke my heart a little bit because there was stuff in there. I'm like, I really want to share this, but does it add value? I kept asking myself, is this adding value? Nope, I've captured it already, so it can go.
Yeah. It was the flowery stuff you had to.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
That
so,
stinks. Maybe
but
a part 2?
Maybe a part 2, but I feel it's a much tighter book actually having gone through that.
Okay.
So
you appreciate the finished product.
I'm absolutely happy with the end product.
Yeah. What was it like when you had the first book with your name on it, like physical book in your hand?
It was weird. And you know what? I didn't have an overwhelming emotional reaction. I think because the process had been so long, it was just kind of like, they're finally here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how did you pick things like the graphic, your front cover? Because I like it because it's no nonsense and it looks very well. It's very well done.
Yeah, it's geared to my target audience. Basically, it attracts attention. So I have to give credit to Leah Hodgson, who is a local girl, a daughter of a friend of mine.
Oh yes.
She designed the initial cover with the concept that ended up on the book, but the editors, the publishing company, changed it a little bit. So they changed some of the coloring. But the initial concept was hers.
I love that you tried to keep it like local.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So has your husband tried all 30 of these things, of the modules?
I want to say yes. Let me take a quick look at the table of contents.
Yeah.
I do want to say yes. I'm going to say yes because I've made him do all this stuff.
He was your guinea pig. Poor guy.
He was my guinea pig.
Yeah. Well, how is he feeling now after the journey since 2018, 2019?
He's good.
Yeah.
He's in a good place. I mean, he still has moments of struggle.
Sure.
He explains, and actually I was just in a training course this weekend, another yoga training course, and we were talking about PTSD, and he explains PTSD as, some days I wake up and I'm walking through oatmeal and it's up to my ankles. That's a good day. Some days I wake up and oatmeal is up to my neck.
And that's a bad day.
That's a bad day.
Wow.
And it just depends on, maybe something triggered him the day before. He had a bad sleep. Sometimes he does have nightmares, so that can happen. So on the days that the oatmeal's up to his neck, then he can only do some of the milder things in the book. Maybe he focuses on his breathing that day. Mm-hmm. Maybe he does a little bit of journaling to let shit go, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, now I know he does a lot of projects for you at home.
He does.
Does that help him? Is that therapeutic for him?
Yes, and that's actually the chapter on getting creative and playing was based. He suggested that chapter actually.
Oh, he did.
Yeah, because he said it started out with, we bought a skeleton for Halloween.
I was just going to mention the skeleton because I know he's your bud.
So Simon the skeleton became a thing. And
Mike became a thing.
It became a thing. Mike actually bought the skeleton for me because I love Halloween, and he bought it as a surprise for decoration. It came from Amazon, and he ended up opening the box and keeping it for himself.
The box or the skeleton?
The skeleton.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. You're talking about creative.
Well,
so did he keep the box and build something out of the box?
He might have, because something could be stored in it. Who knows?
Right.
But he came up with a backstory for Simon, where he came from, why he ended up being a skeleton. And then he would just put him in random places, and I'd find him in the house. So I'd open up, the bathroom, and he'd be sitting on the toilet. Or, I'd go to the bedroom, and he'd be under the covers lying in bed. I'd get in the car, he'd be strapped into the passenger seat when I got in the car.
How fun.
Super fun. So we were talking about the book. I was home writing one day, and he said, why don't you write a chapter about Simon? I'm like, well, what do you mean? He says, well, I'm having a lot of fun with him. And he says, he's making me play a little bit. And he says, I'm using my creativity. So then I went, oh, light bulb. So I started doing some research on creativity, play, art, creative arts for people with PTSD and mental health. Mm-hmm. And it ended up being a thing that people who have gone through PTSD in particular are very creative.
Really?
It sparks creativity from what they've been through. So there's people who started writing poetry. There are people who wrote songs after going through PTSD because it evoked emotion and it brought things out in them.
Now, see, and I would question, which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah.
Do they have PTSD because they're deeper thinkers?
Could be.
Or did the PTSD cause them to be more creative?
Yeah, and we don't know the answer to that question. Right. My husband is a deeper thinker.
Yeah.
He's a creative guy. He's a big picture guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's been, before we started dating, we were friends for 15 years, and he was always my go-to guy. I called him the go-to guy because he's the guy I would go to bounce ideas off of because of the way he thinks.
He's a good bouncer.
He is.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And
so,
you've been married for how long now?
It'll be 7 years next week.
Jeez.
Yeah.
My goodness, you're an old married couple. Nice.
Yeah.
And now I know you've just, the book was just released. Are there any experiences that you've gotten to have since releasing the book that you wouldn't normally have been able to have, like good or bad?
Other than the feedback I'm getting, that's basically it. Right now, I've had people open up to me because I did this.
Yeah. Like overshare?
A little bit. Some people,
because they feel safe.
Yeah. And I get that a lot as a yoga instructor. I attract people to overshare because I'm in my parasympathetic nervous system more than most people, so I'm considered calm and a safe place. But a few people, have been like, one, I'm really glad you shared this story. I'm sharing what I'm reading in your book with other people in my family.
Wow.
So they understand a little bit more about me. I had one lady tell me there's a chapter about spending time in nature and how healthy that is for us. And I explained the science behind why. And her husband were going for a walk, and she was explaining to him the science behind why they felt so good every time they spent time outside.
I want to know why. Tell me, because I preach this all the time, that the outside and nature is my church.
Absolutely.
So tell me if you can summarize it.
I can summarize
and not in a 45-minute. Because that goes beyond our show.
Yeah. Actually, there's a lot of reasons. Part of it is the whole energy thing. We are connected to the earth. So being outside, especially if we're barefoot, hands in dirt, really is calming to us. There's actually something, and I'd have to look in the book to remember what it was called, but there's actually a type of bacteria in dirt that helps to calm us down. So actually getting hands in dirt, gardening, digging through the dirt actually helps us scientifically. It's been shown to prove that.
I love that.
Yeah. Being outside can calm us down. There's, it invokes the senses. There's the whole finding wonder and finding beauty in nature. Green space is just
sun helps us with our vitamin D.
Yes. Yeah. So there's a lot of reasons why. Same thing at night. The moon, especially for women, is energizing to women. Just looking at the wonder of what's up in the sky in the nighttime. So there's a lot of reasons, but one of the biggest ones is our energetic and even somewhat magnetic connection to the earth. Yeah.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah.
Now, again, just came out, your book. Do you have plans for a second? Or is it what do you have in the works? Do you have your wheels moving?
I've got some ideas in the works. I don't think I would ever do a nonfiction book. At least I'm saying that right now. It was a lot of work capturing the information, doing the research, and the footnotes, which is why I went with professional editors to make sure I captured everything properly.
Yes.
I do have some ideas. So again, with the creative side, and I'm sure we're friends, you've seen on Facebook that I love sharks.
Yes, you do.
I have a giant stuffed shark that...
Shark Week is like your Christmas.
It is, yeah.
I know.
I have a giant stuffed shark named Finn that sleeps with me, stays on my bed.
Children's book?
Well, I'm toying with the idea of a children's book or staying with the theme with the language and making it an adult's book about life lessons. So something like Finn the shark just says, be fucking kind to people.
I love
right?
it.
Show some fucking respect.
I love that. That's my motto.
Yeah. So I've been toying with that idea. Yeah. My husband and I actually did a brainstorming session. We were driving home from Toronto a few weeks ago when, he was a captive audience in the car with me.
Well, because he can't leave.
Exactly. So we're like, what kind of ideas, what kind of adventures could Finn the shark have? So we I bet you I have 3 pages of ideas of things we could do. I'm just trying to decide if it's going to be an adult type book, because adults do need to remember to be kind and be respectful and all those life lessons.
They have to be reminded.
Yes.
Sadly.
But I could also do a kid's version too. So, I could do either. I could do both. I don't know. Wheels are spinning on that.
I love that. Because any author that comes in here, I can almost see that's why I always ask that question. Yeah. Now, speaking of kids version, Fuck You PTSD can it be used with children, or could you do a children's version?
I could absolutely do a children's version. Just take the profanity out of it, basically,
Right.
and make it so it's at a children's understanding level. Right?
Yeah.
But all of the things, all the 30 things in my book can be used with children. Having an adult facilitate it, obviously, or with a therapist if they're seeing a therapist. Absolutely. Yep.
And I do like the way you qualified right at the beginning of the book. First and foremost, if you're having trouble, seek a professional's help. Yep. This is just, an add-on.
Yes.
To professional
complementary.
help.
Yeah.
Not instead of.
Yes.
Yes. And, it's important that we use the professionals in our environment and in our community. And if you have, if you need help,
get help. Get help. Yeah.
Do you think this will be? Is it geared to men?
Typically, that would be my target audience. A type A, first responder, skeptical, would never buy a self-help book.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's my target audience. But like I said, anybody will benefit from it.
Because of the title?
Yeah.
That, I think men would like that.
Yeah, my husband said, he explained this actually at my book release for anybody that was there. He says, if Angela's at Chapters, I know she's going to be there for an hour wandering around. So he says, I'll wander around. He says, if I happen to go into the self-help section, he says, I'm not going to buy something that says, healing for first responders. He says, I'm not even going to look at those. He says, but a title that says, fuck you PTSD. He says, I'll pick it up and go, what's this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then how did you come up with the title? Did he help you with that?
He did. Yeah. Actually, the title for 3 years while I was writing it was A Skeptic's Companion to Healing. And when we went to publish, he's like, that's a bullshit title. Nobody in your target market's going to buy a book with that title.
He told you that, or the publisher?
Okay. Oh, no, he told me that. Okay. He told me that before it even went to the publisher.
Yeah.
He says, we need something catchy that's going to capture the people that you want to help.
Yes.
So we had a whole bunch of ideas. One of his favorite songs is by Matchbox 20, Unwell, I think it's called.
Yeah.
He liked some of the themes in that song, but I was like, it doesn't really pack a punch as much. He's like, well, you know what? He says anybody that gets PTSD that's a first responder wants to help themselves. They're action oriented, and they're going to say, you know what? Fuck you, PTSD. I can beat you. So I'm like, there's a title.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think his name should be on the book.
Well, he gets kudos all through the book.
Oh, of course he does. He's probably Mike. He's probably very proud of himself.
He is. I have a whole section in the back on gratitude, the thank yous to people that helped me with the book, and there's lots of thank yous to him because for 3 years, I mean, like you said, I work full time. I teach lots of classes. I do lots of other stuff. So I used a lot of my vacation weeks to write the book, which is time we could have spent doing stuff together, going to concerts, rocking out,
Rocking out.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Where's your book available?
So it's available from me. If you're local to Sault Ste. Marie, you can reach out to me. My email address is angeladaveyauthor@outlook.com.
And Davey is spelled Davey.
Correct. Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you for clarifying.
You're very welcome.
Yes. So I do have copies. I'm selling it locally for $25 a copy. That saves you the shipping cost, basically, if you buy it from me.
Yep.
And I will sign it for anybody who wants me to sign it for them.
That will up the
value,
value,
especially if I happen to die,
Well.
And I keep telling people, can you sign it? I'm like, well, sure, if I die, then it's worth something.
Right, and then you can hang out with Simon.
Yeah, exactly.
And your website?
Yeah, so I also have a website, angeladaveyauthor.ca. If you click on the link, it will take you to Amazon to buy my book. So it's available on Amazon, all Amazon platforms, .ca.com. It's available Apple Books, Chapters, online, Barnes & Noble, all book-selling outlets. It's available online.
Awesome.
The publisher sent it out to 50,000 book-selling outlets.
Wow.
Yes.
So it's out there.
It's out there.
Awesome.
Yes. And actually, just to plug, it's not my first book. It's my second book.
I didn't know this.
Yes.
What was your first book?
My first book was published in 2021. I published it myself as an ebook on Amazon. It's called Understanding Self-Care, 7 Things to Consider. I don't even remember the title now. How sad is that?
I love that even though you're writing books, numbers are in the book.
Numbers are in the book.
30 modules, 7
numbers.
things to consider.
People lie, numbers don't.
Oh, yes. I love that.
So my website will give you a link to that book too, and you can just buy it. It's a little 80-page ebook on Amazon. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Angela, for being on the show. I see value in this book. I hope that maybe the first responders in town will buy the book and keep it in their library so people can just sneak it and pick it up and look at it and not have to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love it. It's obviously a needed book, and it's nice to see something out there local.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Angela Davey here with Fuck You PTSD, 30 Things You Can Try to Help You Feel Better. It was great having you on the show.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you. You've been listening to Lisa Tucker. We are on the book cover, on the borderline. And remember, don't judge a book by its cover.
Hi, I'm Angela Davey, author of You PTSD, 30 Things You Can Try to Help You Feel Better. Find my book on any book-selling platforms, or you can find me at www.angeladaveyauthor.ca. You can listen to me on a podcast with Lisa Tucker of The Book Cover on theborderline.ca and wherever you listen to podcasts.